Very good afternoon to all of you. I want to start today's session by sharing a story which I've never told before in a public audience. It's basically my story. So in 2011, 2012, I was working in London with the FSA, which is the RBI for UK, part of the team that split FSA into FC and PRA. So when I stumbled upon the opportunity of Hurun India, I found it very exciting to speak about the Indian growth story. What I had in my mind was an economist map which said India and China used to have some 80% of global GDP 200 years back, and then because of all the events that happened in that 200 to 50 years, India is back to very low when it comes to GDP. And I really thought at that time I believed that the next 10, 20 years is when India is going to really take back its share of GDP. Now that is the kind of the passion that I had in my mind. I have no background in entrepreneurship. My family is fully professionals. My dad is a doctor, so I didn't really have anyone to look up to or ask for mentorship. But I took a punt and I just jumped in, quit my job in London, came back to India. And it is a tough journey. Building a business in general is tough, and also in a market like India is tough, and also building something which you have never done before. I was just passionate about valuation and also knowing people, but then creating a business out of it, it's extremely tough. And as Elon Musk said in one interview, an entrepreneurship is like staring into an abyss and eating glass, right? So as an entrepreneur, you get it. Staring at abyss means you basically know that almost 90 to 95% startups fail, right? So every day or every other hour, you really are thinking about how do you make yourself relevant, which is valuable for the society, and how do you build a sustainable business. And you're eating glass. You as an entrepreneur, you always face, you get to see all the sort of problems. There are good problems, bad problems, worse problems. And as a founder, you take the worst problems and try and handle it yourself. So you are literally staring into the abyss and eating glass. And I really believe the breed of entrepreneurs that we're going to speak about today would come into that category of individuals or citizens of the country who has a very high pain threshold, starting business on their own. And today is dedicated to self-made entrepreneurship in the country. And I welcome all of you to the very first inaugural edition of IDFC First, Hurun Top 200 Self-Made Entrepreneurs of the Millennia. About the list, it's a list of about 405 entrepreneurs, or about 200 companies they represent, and the valuations of the companies as of 30th September 2023. The cutoff to enter the top 200 is about 3,000 crores, and that's basically the summary of the list. I'll also take you through some of the data that we have here. So if you look at the top 10, which is here, you can see some of the names are very common, but one interesting aspect here is that when you compare the Hurun India rich list and the top 10 here, the only one person who's featured in the top 10 on the rich list is Mr. Damani. And so this is basically the top 10. And you can also see that most of the entrepreneurs in the top 10 in today's list is basically from the startup ecosystem. So that's the top 10 table. The women representation is also very interesting. If you look here, we've got Falguni Nair to Gazil again, some of the top women startup founders who've entered the list. So this is very much different when it compares to the data of the whole India rich list. So basically, you would realize that there is this amazing wave of women entrepreneurship or women entrepreneurs who have really started the business after the year 2000 are going on to become some of the most valuable companies in the country. So that's the top 10 of women. This is actually quite interesting. If you look at the top cities in other lists that we produce, it's basically Mumbai is the top wealth creating city in India. But in the IDFC First Hurun list, Bangalore is the number one city, followed by Mumbai and Gurugram. And another interesting aspect is that in all these 5 cities, it's basically the startups dominate wealth creation. If you look at the self-made entrepreneurs of the Millennia list. Just to give you some perspective, in the other rich list that we produce, it's usually the manufacturing that dominates, but here it's startups. So that's quite evident about how Indian economy is moving and how much of an impact the startups are creating in terms of value creation for the country. This is interesting. How many of these companies, have gone global? Mind you, these are companies that are just 22 to 23 years old, right? So there are various ranges. For example, there are companies ranging from 1 to 20 to some companies that are there in more than 100 countries. And there are also certain SaaS companies which are built in India and shipped to the world as well. We did an analysis of the funding ecosystem as well. And what we've understood is almost 95% of the companies in the list have been funded by external investors. So this also kind of throws light into around how much the capital providers have played in terms of creating a viable value creation economy, value creation in the economy. And about 5% are bootstrapped. And 20 of these companies are run by professional managers. So that also kind of shows the maturity of some of these companies in the list, right? So you have a founder who's passionate, who's building a business, who's possibly young as well. And 20 of these companies are run by professional CEOs. And Indian wealth engine, if you look at it in the next 10, 20 years, that you could expect wealth creation to happen from 4 sort of wider engine. The first is, of course, the traditional family business. Second is your tech startup, innovative business. That is what most of this entrance in the list is. Then you've got the professional managers who are the CEOs of companies like DMart. Those set of people are going to create value. Then also you have the last category, which is also the capital providers who provide money to these companies. So it's quite interesting that 20 of these companies are run by professional CEOs who are not the founders of the business. There is also evidence that value creation has been driven by technology. Now, if you look at this graph, B2C is about 80%, B2B is 20%. But what is more interesting is service is 79%, and physical is 21%. That is, SaaS and tech and those kind of opportunities constitute about 80% of the list. And again, 80% is manufacturing and 20% is 20% is manufacturing and 80% is non-manufacturing. This is very interesting. We also did an analysis on the percentage of graduates versus postgraduates. Almost 34% of the list is just graduates. They haven't taken a postgraduate degree, and almost 52% are postgraduates. We also try to understand what do they study. Now, we found that almost 10 founders are chartered accountants, 7 are doctors, and 225 of them are engineers. The top 5 sectors are financial services, retail, healthcare, software, and transportation. I think this is also very much in difference compared to the other list that we put, wherein the manufacturing sectors contributed the top category of value creators. There are also about 133 entrepreneurs on the list of serial entrepreneurs, which means they've found more than one businesses during their lifetime. About 4 have cashed out, and 10 have entered the business and then exited. We also did an analysis on the age of these individuals. The youngest in the list is Kaivalya Vora, the oldest is Ashok Sutta, the median age is around 43, the youngest woman is Gaslala Soumya Sangrathur, 35 years old. The average age of the list is about 44. And we also did a comparison on how many of them are unicorns, gazelles, and cheetahs. So gazelles and cheetahs are basically those startups that could potentially become unicorn in the next 5-6 years. And cheetahs are worth about 200 million US, and gazelles are about 500 million US. So that's the breakup. So that's the brief data. You have the data with you. But what am I trying to tell you here? What I have understood why we finished the research is that this breed of entrepreneurs, or this breed of this wave of wealth creation is coming from new industries, new sectors, based on the new infrastructure ecosystem that we have in India. And what I've seen in this breed of entrepreneurs is that a lot of clarity in terms of how they give back to society, either by way of investing back into the ecosystem, but also by way of philanthropy. So because of which I really think this bunch of entrepreneurs who featured in this year, the first edition of the list is actually quite important, and they would possibly be one of the biggest contributors to either by investing or by philanthropy in the long-term horizon, 10, 20 years. And we're very happy to have partnered with IDFC First. And IDFC First is founded by one entrepreneur called, by an entrepreneur, Mr. Vaidyanathan, who would have featured in the list if it had not been the partner. And was truly an inspiration for any entrepreneur who wants to set up the business in India in terms of how he has built his business. And really, it gives a lot of meaning to have a partnership with IDFC First in launching this, the self-paid entrepreneurs of the Millennia list. And this is all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time. I'm here to take any questions. And thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.